right. I think we might be live. Let's see. I'll make sure we're here. So far, we're not, but give me a minute here. Are we here? Yes, we are. Okay. Let me make sure to edit this because it has been not letting anything I do be public, which is retarded. Facebook's so fun. They deplatformed Laura Eisenhower and David Rodriguez, and then this morning they deplatformed Dr. Jason Dean. And what they're doing with me now is every time I post something, if I don't click the extra button that says that I want it to be public, then it only shows to me. Like, I'm the only person in the world that can see any of the posts, not a single person. But I have a public page and I have the settings set for public. But if I don't click the button that says that I want everyone to see it, then they won't. Anyway, hi. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sihon. I am with swiftfire.org, True TV. Super excited because we have James Redfield here. He is an author. He wrote the book Celestine Prophecy back in the 90s. I read the book then. I actually got it out again a few years ago. And James, I've never talked to you in person. I've met your wife, but I love your work. And I recently went back to some of your videos on Synchronicity, and you call it the morphic field. I call it the biofield. We have a lot of things that we're kind of talking about the same, but I would love for you to share your background and how you got, the book and where you are now, and just a little bit for the people who are on my audience who may not be familiar with your book or your work, just to kind of start that out.
Well, good. Happy to be with you, and hello, everyone. It's really fun for me to talk about the books right now. We have just re-released a copy of the Celestine Prophecy. And that's fun because it has a new afterword about it. But these are novels. These are adventure tales. And what we're really looking at is a novel that talks about spiritual consciousness. And really what it talks about is the real experience of this thing called spirituality. And all the, for decades, eons, really, humans have been trying to figure out what is our spiritual nature, what is this, if there's a creator, what's the nature of that creator. And so I was a psychotherapist, and in the 90s, I really wanted, I was experiencing suddenly the results of what was called the human potential movement. And that is, it was a quasi-scientific, very scholarly, but also people, poets, mystics, everybody come together in this really great dialogue. And get this, it started with Carl Jung 100 years ago. When Carl Jung, who's a depth psychologist, broke from Sigmund Freud and said, guess what? There's a spiritual part of our nature as well. And he started this whole conversation that has lasted 100 years. And I think that what has happened and what was happening back in the 90s was a kind of a lot of reading about consciousness and about spirituality. And what happened was that everybody was sort of reading this human potential movement, starting to realize there were these key experiences that defined spirituality. Spirituality is not a yes, I believe, or no, I don't believe, a mental kind of decision. It's, I can experience this connection called spirituality, spiritual connection, consciousness, or I can live my life not knowing all that's real. So what I decided to do is take that moment of and write a series of novels about what the real experience of spirituality is like. What these scholars for 100 years have talked about. And my first book was of 9 key. I called them insights. They're really understandings that I argued was coming to consensus in the world about how spirituality really worked. What is the spiritual nature of this planet? What are the spiritual rules? What can we expect to have in terms of experiences? So I started off with 9, and then in 3 subsequent novels, I talked about an 10th, 11th, and 12th understandings of how the spiritual world really worked, and how really, since we're spiritual beings, in my view, how the universe really works. So we, in my view, we understand how to have the full experiences of spirituality now for the first time. And the book, my first book, of course, kind of went viral before the word was coined, and it just people passed it around like crazy, and within 2 years it was the best-selling book in the world. And which just made my point, was that people were understanding and pursuing and finding the real spiritual experiences and understandings of how, as I put it now, how to find the spiritually connected, fully conscious life. And that is, by the way, the most creative life you can find, the most emotionally stable life you can find, and the easiest life that you can find, because there's a karma principle operating in the world. That's one of the insights. And if you get on the right side of karma, which is about giving, not taking, then what happens is life goes a lot easier. You have good karma. You have more synchronicity, which is one of the basic experiences as well. So we can talk about one or all of those, and I have a lot of fun. But I go around everywhere saying to people that this is a magic time, a kind of time of pursuing consciousness. And it was happening before the shutdowns, right? 3 generations were asking, what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? In big ways. And then what happened just in the middle of that big conversation, we had all the COVID shutdowns. And then all of a sudden we're sitting, not only are we pondering, the meaning of life, but we're pondering it all shut up in our houses, right? So we're having to really find a personal meaning for life, not just having fun and all the things that we do to distract ourselves. We've been kind of forced to really come to grips with, what is my true inner security? What's my connection with the divine? And all the rest. So I call it the spiritual reset. This
yes.
For whatever, I think we were all locked down for very sinister reasons. It didn't have to happen. We were never locked down, and all the previous problems with these bugs that come around. Nobody ever thought about locking down, because it ruins your livelihood. It destroyed at least 26 million people's livelihood.
Yep.
Which means, and that's just in the United States, in the world, it really shut down and put in control what we see as really a fearful kind of self-serving controllers. And we just have to break out of that, and take our freedoms back. And that's necessary. even as we try to stay safe in this environment. Without an economy, not only 120 million people, 1,000 people are going to die in the United States, which have, but 26 millions of people have died from heartbreak in nursing homes because their loved ones couldn't come see them, of people who failed to get necessary medical procedures because they're afraid to go to the hospital, and died from that. The numbers from the lockdown in terms of deaths, are multiple any deaths that happened in the nursing homes. And remember, 3 million people die in nursing homes in private care every year in the United States. And now we know that the actual tests are bogus. They have a 75% positive bias, and so now there's a so-called surge at the same time that we realize that most people are not vulnerable to this bug. And so it was kind of a a dark side attempt to take over, but in my view, the silver lining is that it's a real spiritual reset. There's a lot of influence and really kind of positive power that comes from connecting spiritually. And so we're going to, the rebound from this is going to be a real cleanup of corruption in the world.
Yes. I got a few things. As a naturopath, people that I'm seeing and what I've seen with all of this, yes, I absolutely agree, 1,000,000%. You said that so very eloquently. This reset, with the surge from the lockdowns, which are totally bogus, but it's about cases because they're locking down because there's more cases, but by definition, cases mean tests. So if they ramp up more tests, then of course they're going to have more cases because cases are tests. So the more tests that you have, even if someone is tested 55 times, then that counts as 55 cases. So that's what's causing the numbers to go up. I know people who, in the school systems who've been teachers and students who've been tested multiple times now, because if one person in the room is positive, then they test everybody again. Same thing with government. I have one young man who works for the government, and he's been tested 11 or 12 times. Same thing with the police force or what have you. And he tests negative every time. But in the past, no matter what, everyone was testing positive. Even people who weren't being tested were already considered positive just because you lived in the house where they were, and they were getting paperwork sent to them saying, oh, you tested positive. So yes, I agree. There are a lot of misinformation, a lot of sinister activity, to say the least. But yes, I think that during the time when people were quiet and alone and not at work and having less things to deal with, they were having to look at themselves and their purpose, not just their connection to God, but a lot of people have lost their jobs completely. And so they're having to look for new ways to make income. And they're going deep and they're asking themselves, what is it that I love? And they're paying attention to the authenticity of their hearts and generating that, because there is there's power in that. There's a frequency to authenticity. And so while some are taking the choices when they're sitting there to do more drugs and alcohol and get lower and get depressed or what have you, there are people who are going the opposite direction, and they're finding truth. They're seeking truth. They're finding truth. And it's been a really positive experience, although I think they're upset and don't like the injustice or the control. I agree with you that, yes, there's going to have to be some choices made to stand up, and how that looks is, who knows what's going to happen. But I think people are starting to get upset. not as much as overseas. I mean, I have a lot of clients overseas, and I've traveled quite a bit. I know you have too. And they're having riots in Germany and the UK and Australia and all over. We're not having the riots to stop the lockdowns. They're having riots for other reasons that make no sense at all. That, you know, it's like in their eyes they won, and they're burning things and beating people up and throwing fireworks at people. So it's like, if they lose or win, they're still doing this. But I love what you said about karma, because my hope and the law of what energy is you only get what you are. And so how long you cannot keep doing evil things over and over and over again without getting some sort of response to that energetically. And karma doesn't sleep. Karma doesn't take a minute off, let alone a day. And they're going to get everything they deserve. And if you talk to people like Robert Steele, who's ex-CIA, he's been on the phone with Sidney Powell for the last few weeks, hearing what's going on. Stuff is going down. And yeah, I think what they thought was coming against us, what they used against us, is going to turn in our favor. And yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because it's just a chaotic time. The astrology, I would recommend Joseph P. Anthony's work, astrological work, to really figure out what's going on in the sky. Whether you believe in astrology or not, his interpretations are very interesting. But what he says, I agree with totally. It's a time where the sunlight is being shined on all the corruption, and you know, everybody's been compromised in a lot of ways who are in power. A lot of money and mischief, but it's all happening to be seen. The great majority of people in the United States or all over the world love their life, believe in democracy, believe in the truth, believe in the best for their neighbors and their children, and really want the best life possible. And like I say, it's, while in my view, the dark side is just all that corruption. It comes from fear and inner insecurity. So you need power to make yourself feel good. So that's, you know, that's what we're not fighting that, because fighting just gets you over in the dark side. What you do is you just tell the truth. Everybody's redeemable. Everybody who's on the dark side could come over now and be redeemed. There's that structure in the world, and that's on the way to kind of win for truth and fairness, and you know, the best for everyone is to tell the truth and share the truth and do it with love. That's what happens with these experiences of spirituality. You know, that you know, we're seeking and we're finding the real experience of spirituality, and we can talk about a few of those that are very important if you want to.
Yes, I would. Because I'm just finding this graphic that I saw the other day. It says they aren't asking for unity, although they're declaring it, but they're demanding conformity. There's a difference. And, you know, I think that I really believe there's stuff going on both sides. I'm not a sides person. I'm a policy person, and I get behind life and truth and love. But yeah, I would love to hear your aspect on any of these things, whether synchronicities or the law, karma. What you go, I'll just follow your lead.
Well, you know, I think the most transforming experience we can have, and that's a revelation in terms of experience that we get, and that is that we have the ability to have a flow of synchronicity. Now, synchronicity, Carl Jung, founder of the Human Potential Movement, coined the word. It's a principle in the universe, a design in the universe. And it's the perception of meaningful coincidences, right? So if we have these mysterious coincidences, it's how we get help in life. In other words, if truly we can become aware of these mysterious coincidences that are calling us to a certain journey in life, and once you get started in it, it's about what your soul wants to do. And once you start to realize that the universe operates, it's designed to operate so that your basic truth you're to tell in the world, the way you can help the world move forward, happens through these mysterious coincidences. The writing of my first book, the way we got it out there, was just a dance of these mysterious coincidences that opened doors for me. And if you look at any biography of someone who's really sort of changed the world, or even at any level, you see that their life story was always full of coincidences. So unconsciously, the world has always progressed by people who paid attention and took advantage of these mysterious coincidences that opened doors and provided information at just the right time. So, and the thing about it is even those people who say, I want to connect spiritually, I think that's real and I want to connect. It's hard to do because currently the world, the kind of assumptions out there in the world are still very, very materialistic. We live in a world where there's just it's all chance, and we don't believe anything's going on at all. It's a random things happen to you in life, and all you have to do is just try to, by hook or crook, make money and have a happy life and going on a bunch of vacations, right? That's the assumption everybody lives with. But our lives really, the world has a spiritual design, and one of it is if you get aligned with the flow of synchronicity that's seeking to guide you toward your destiny and calling, that will start to happen. You'll start to perceive this. And the two caveats, one is you have to always find a positive interpretation for everything, right? Some synchronicities are challenging.
Yes.
Right? Some aspect of your life you have to look at, of your behavior, of your karma, which we'll talk about next. You have to say, why did this happen to me? Why did my project crash? But there is a positive synchronicity in there, because all the major things that happen to us, it's the hand of spirit. It's a hand. It's a mystical hand in your life, and if you start positively flowing with that, then you learn all the lessons you need to learn to ultimately complete your destiny and your contribution to the world. And it's very important that we reach that if we're going to have an easy life or an easier life, because there is a karmic design, and it's the one thing that humanity has never tried. And that is to, except in little spurts and bubbles, and that is to get in alignment with the karmic design of this world. And I believe that anyone can prove to themselves is that it's designed around the idea of helping.
Yeah.
Now, helping is something that you have to pay attention to. In other words, what we do, even if it's about synchronicity, we're talking to a stranger and we're trying to see what synchronicity they're going to give us, right? Well, equally, we have to be searching our intuitive mind for what do I need to share about my life to tell this person, maybe a perfect stranger that I'm talking to give them a synchronicity. So in other words, you have to give first almost to get the flow of getting back. Because if you're a giver, what happens is that you draw more givers into your life.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
So as a scientist, and I've written a book after reading your book in the 90s. I've written a book called The Science of Miracles. And if you want to know about I was so drawn to your book because you talk about the biofield having colors and numbers and it's code. There's equations, there's symbols, and some people can see that. I see that as a child, and sometimes it comes on even now. It's more felt and understood. It's a language that isn't spoken or seen all the time, but it's just felt, and we can feel that. And it's made up of our mind, what we're thinking, what we're talking about, and what we're feeling mostly. But it's also a signature DNA in our code. But what you talked about, it really inspired me to actually break down the science part. And the limbic system is behind, this is your frontal lobe, and your limbic system is behind that. Limbic system is the seat of your emotions, but it also cannot tell the difference between you and me. So if I give money to you, or if I tell you a kind word, then my limbic system actually equates that as someone just did that for me. And it tells my endocrine system to release all the chemicals as if I was in receive mode of something beautiful and glorious, or financial, or whatever. Giving looks like a lot of different things, but it actually tells your body that you just gave this, or someone just gave it to you, or you gave it to yourself on a chemistry code. So then that code goes out into the biofield, and it not only radiates out, but it collects. So it magnetizes in based on your feelings about it. And what's interesting is that works both ways. So if you are in a grumpy mood, like you said, if you have something challenging you and your perspective is, oh crap, this always happens to me, then you basically create the code for this always happens to me. And then it keeps on coming in different ways happening to you, because God, source, wants to clear that out, and it wants you to recognize this over and over and see the pattern, so you'll get so fed up that you'll clear it out. And sorry, my dog's barking. Hey, shh, sorry. But same with any patterns that we have. If you judge, then you're judging yourself. That's why scripture talks about judge and you will be judged. And I look at scripture like quantum physics. I know there's a lot missing and all of that, but so giving is such a huge thing, and it is about the law of karma, and it's so deep, even on a science level, because every time we expect something, whether it's for ourselves or anytime we judge someone, or ever we're kind to someone or give to someone, there's a science to that actually you can't run away from it, because you're the one creating it. If things are not happening to us, they're happening for us. And we're the ones who are doing it to ourselves. We're the creators. So, a lot of people will say, oh, well, God's got this, or, let's just pray. I hope God gets this, or God will take care of it. Or why is God allowing this to happen? It's like, no, go deeper and see that the DNA of God is inside of you, and you have the technology to co-create something. And it can be beautiful if your perspective is, I'm in a situation right now, and I'm like, and I caught myself, and I'm like, okay, this looks like it is, but also everything always works out for me. So this is going to be awesome. I don't know how it's going to be awesome. I don't know everything yet, but I'm expecting something great, because miracles happen to me every day, and that's just how it works. So, it's a mental.
It's once we get into alignment, if you're a giver, you draw in more givers. You open up yourself to being a better giver. But it's important to know if we're takers, and this is why. And I'll finish my statement. If you're a taker, you draw into life more takers. Now, and interestingly, as a psychotherapist for a number of years, I realized, and any psychotherapist will tell you that people draw in when they have trouble with someone. The people that show up in your life to give you trouble are people that act just like you. So if you're in, we have to look at ourselves. Okay, if we're drawing in people that shout instead of talking reasonably, right? First thing you have to do is, how am I like that? What's that message? What's the synchronicity of this person showing up in my life? But what happens is that over and over, if you're a taker, and we're unconscious of most of the taking we do. Most of the taking is that we point toward people is to get energy back. We feel short of energy, and if somebody else is talking in a way that makes us feel put down, then we react in a particular way. I call them the controlled dramas that we create in our life, trying to defend ourselves. And those dramas will just spin around and spin around. They never work. You never get to feel much better. But these are our reaction patterns. So watch the people that come into your life, and when we ask, what is, how is that me? And then let that go. Let that go and move in a positive direction. But when I say the human race hasn't tried it ever, it's because we unconsciously defend ourselves with people, and we're taking their energy so we feel it ourselves and feel better about ourselves. And what happens is that's just a circle of you taking it from somebody and them taking it back from you to learn, to ask you to learn a lesson. It's not punishment. It's just that's the way the karmic design is in this world. So, and that's why it's so important to get on think about giving synchronicity to another person. What does this person need to hear from me? Something I've done to bring a solution to my life, of a problem or of boredom or an emotion that's troubling. All that is something that you will, you'll get. Your intuitive intelligence opens up, and we just get a sense. And remember what happens if you just kind of blurt out some story about yourself that you think that person needs to hear, very, very often they'll say what? They'll say, I needed to hear that right now. This is right now in my life. I really, thank you so much. I needed to hear that. So see, at the karmic level, that is what the world is designed to be. If we're all giving people that we run into in life, if everybody was doing that, we'd draw more and more givers back to us. Our creations would go more smoothly because you have someone delivering a synchronicity that opens a door for you at every moment. You have a flow. So that's the way the spiritual design of this world is. And it's one of the key experiences, alignments. Now, all we have to do is become a giver, an intuitive giver, and not a taker, and the world will open up as though it's designed for miracles, which it is.
Yes, and what I'm hearing you say is something that I say quite often. It's about being righteous. The word means to be in right standing. And when we are love and we are truth, then that creates a code that goes out, and you start collecting loving people, righteous people that are in right standing, meaning they have full integrity. They're integrated. And we have a few people commenting, well, what about my sister? And what about whatever? And, Robert Tennyson Stevens is a dear friend and colleague of mine, and he's a great teacher. And he always says, there is no them. There is no them. Everyone is you. And We just tend to use people to show us who we are. And if you go back to scripture again, it's like what you stand before you become. And, you know, looking in that mirror, and God, source, energy, whatever, is looking for a clear reflection. And he'll continue to allow the laws to keep showing us anything that's in us that wouldn't cause that clear, you know, clear source energy. And it'll be like, oh, there's a spot, oh, look, there's a spot, you know. And it's like we can, if we have the gratitude piece, like you're talking about, and saying, you know what, instead of being mad about the person who's really you, to just go, gosh, mentally, not out loud, but thank you. I'm so glad you're in my life to help me know that this is still in me. You know, it's like, you're me, so let's work on me. It's an inside job. Everything is an inside job. There is no them.
Yeah. And you know, that honoring them for the you know, thanks for sharing the kind of what thing you do. It's to keep us positive and giving energy, not taking. You know, as soon as we move into defending ourselves, how dare that person talk to me like that, you know, or try to manipulate me in this way or that way. You're defending yourself. Now, it's, you know, what happens with energy, and these are novels where characters are discovering this, right? How to live this way. But one of the biggest design principles in the spiritual world here is that if you give energy, you fill up with that energy first as it flows out of you. So if you're before you even start a conversation, if you try to see the highest spiritual expression on the other person's face, and you kind of feed that with your intention, and literally intend to send uplifting energy to that person, that allows you to keep that level of energy all the time. You know, it's the fast recovery from a setback, where it's also the fast recovery from a problem emotion. You know, we grow up with these emotional moments and we try to cover them up in some way, and it's almost always some kind of control drama. So, but the way to move, you know, we only have one emotion. Everything else, you know, hate, envy, bias, jealousy, all that, that's not an emotion. That's a reaction that we've learned. And the only true emotion, in my view, and this is an alignment that we have to achieve, and that is to feel what's called agape love.
Yes.
Okay? Agape, and that happens in prayer, contemplation, you know, where you intend, or meditation, where you intend, though, to find this emotional peace. And in this kind of contemplation, what can happen is that if you just are, you know, you hate somebody, or you seeking revenge, or you just have some kind of turmoil, you know, you were betrayed, those are defensive reactions. How dare them, really? And if you just move for yourself, not for them, you move, you ask for, actually, because it is a opening of spiritual connection, and you intend and you affirm and you're grateful of this heart opening that can take place. What happens is that you get connection to the feeling of love. Okay, we've all loved somebody, something, some animal, some puppies, right? We don't love all the time, but we have experienced love. And that is what we have to recall, because what we're after is a feeling of love as our true emotion. It is the most stabilizing emotion that we can have. It is the most self-secure emotion that we can have. it is what we ultimately give other people. Therefore, it returns whenever we feel short. All we have to do is give it away, comes into us.
Yes.
And the practice is remembering it's agape. It doesn't have any conditions. You're not
Yes.
trying to get any love back.
Yes.
You're not trying to do anything, right? It's all you do is feel this agape love. And agape love is a love that has no object. You're not loving anything or person. It's a state of love, right? That can be found in contemplation, where you're really kind of asking and intending, affirming that you can have that emotional peace in it. What happens if you got that agape love open? What happens is when you do get angry all of a sudden because of a reaction, it bounces off that love. You come back to love. You know, you hear that expression. You come back to love always. And what happens is it sets you emotionally free. So you're not a slave to these problem emotions that slam you around.
I agree. Well, this has gone really fast. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 here, if you don't mind, because we're going to have to pop off. But what are some closing words for people in this situation that we're in right now? And then please do give your website. Do you have your book there that you can just hold up by any chance? Because I didn't have time to find it. But
well, you know, it's the Celestine prophecy. It's everywhere still.
It is. It is. Yes, you're everywhere.
You know, people can just Google James Redfield, and all that will come up. And you know, what I would say to people is that find a community. Okay. Yes. One of the things we've created on our site, which is CelestineVision.com. Again, that will come up with James Redfield. But CelestineVision.com is our site. We have an internet community. So my message now is, yeah, we're locked down. We can still experience community. Okay. Yeah. Don't, get out and have locality community. But you know, if you want some place where you can talk about spiritual consciousness and all the great life and the high creativity that comes from that, then seek a spiritually oriented community. We have one that is about learning the concepts, getting in alignment with spiritual connection, proving to yourself it's a spiritual world. If you start acting spiritually, your whole life will turn, your karma will improve. Life's not supposed to be this hard. Yeah. It's within a community that this has to be talked about and integrated, right? Because we're herd animals, we're all together in this. And it's a time where people need togetherness and unity, because that's really around spirituality. And then start telling the truth. And I think we also have to point out places in life and around us that are corrupt, because that's kind of the general cleanup reaction that we're all having about this. Mm-hmm. A lot of controllers in the world that have just kind of waited for this moment for a long time to control everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And we just have to point that out and talk about it and have the conversation about the corruption without hating. Because as soon as you hate them, as soon as you hate anybody, you are in the dark side. And in the timeline, if you want to be on the dark side timeline, go ahead. Yeah, that's not a good path. I'm gonna stay on the light side, good karma, because on this timeline, the dark gets darker, the light gets lighter. Yes, and if you walk into a dark room, and there's just a little candle, it is dark, but it makes the light so much brighter. And I think that's what we're doing. And I love that you're having this community. I just joined one of your Facebook groups too. And I think Amanda is the one who let me in. And I was like, yay, this is cool. Another place, because
And yeah, they're doing what they can, not with just the lockdowns. If you think about the biofield being 6 to 8 feet, and that's how the distance we're supposed to do, because they know that it's interchangeable and that we can transfer the biofield to other people. But what they don't understand is that we're quantum beings. And so you can put these like psych ops in us and say, oh, well, you're separate. That's an illusion. We're never separate. We're in each other. We're all connected, and we can still find each other. I have found more truthers in this season than I have in my entire life. And it's been super cool. And you know what I'm seeing is with the collaboration and the multiplication, collaboration and the cross-pollination, there's been a multiplication, and we amplify each other. And it's just been so cool. And like I said, what they meant for bad, it's going to backfire. They are going to get theirs. And, you know, yeah, community, you can transfer just by getting a coach, by getting a Facebook group, by just talking, just thoughts. You know, we have the technology for remote viewing and bilocation and, you know, teleportation. And, you know, how many times have you like thought about someone and then they called you? You think that's an accident? No, that's a God-given DNA technology that you have. We have that. So there is no separation. So yes, I concur, and yeah, definitely, you guys go get his book, go get all his books, watch the movie. I watched it again maybe a year ago, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's powerful, and I do hope that you will do another video with us here in the future. Maybe after Thanksgiving, we can do a part 2 and give you some more time to go through some of the other chapters and some touch on some other laws that you have, some of the key nuggets that you got for us.
Well, thank you. I'd love to do that. And I would just say, you know, get into conversations, hopefully with your neighbors, but also across the world. You know, find a platform where you can really get into conversations about how, you know, your experience of spirituality, because that's the grand topic that can elevate and transform your life and allow you to experience these mysterious coincidences that'll take you through your solutions that you need and into your calling.
I agree. Well, I hope to see you guys again. I want to let you know and remind you that there have been some people who have been deplatformed, like even more recently today. So please go to swiftfire.org and get the newsletter. Please go to his website and get jumped on here, because he is on Facebook too. We all have all these platforms, but the way things are going, I just want to make sure that we can connect and that we will not lose that connection. But so go to swiftfire.org. And then also, he had mentioned earlier about astrology, and not coincident, but I have several other shows today that will turn into videos. But we have right after this, in like 8 minutes, I have Charlie Ward, and he's going to be talking about the quantum reset and the ballot system. And that'll be at 3 for those of you guys who can stay on. And then at 7 tonight, I have Christopher Carter, who's going to talk about the whole astrology thing and the whole cosmos alignment and what that means, where we're at with the planets, what that actually means in the real time. He's also going to go into this December 21st, which seems to be a big time of shifting and change. And so I haven't looked at this Joseph Anthony guy, but I'm going to check him out. That would be awesome. And then after Chris, we have Jason Q at 8:30. And I don't know, James, if you haven't heard of these people, you might even want to, maybe we'll do a big panel and have a whole bunch of people, and then you guys can all meet each other and we can just explode this place with love and positivity and generosity. And yes, so thank you again, you guys. I will see you in a few minutes. Thank you for your time, James. Please tell Sally I said hello. Kiss the dogs for me. And I'll have to come back and visit here again soon. I had a great time. I didn't get to see you when I went up there, but I had a great time with Sally. So tell her I said, hey.
I will do it. Bless
All
you.
right. I'll be in touch. Thanks so much.